How many times have you jerked it to Loretta Swit?
How many times have you jerked it to Jamie Farr?
Jamie Farr in the dress.
Jamie Farr once.
Hello and welcome to Mount Rushmore. I'm Jeff, and as usual, I'm joined by my good friends Richard.
Hello.
And Michael.
Howdy.
Richard and Michael normally are at odds with each other as they try to select the top 4 of any given subject to place on the Mount Rushmore of that topic. But this week, they're working hand in hand. They're actually physically holding hands right now, and it's beautiful because they're bonding and getting close to take on the outsider, the dark horse, the newcomer to our studio here. That is Chapen Hazlett. How are you doing, Chapen?
Doing great.
I'm doing great. If that were a character catchphrase, that would be really amazing, especially if we're on a sitcom or something like that. I'm doing great. Our studio audience is laughing already.
Can we do a different version of I'm doing great? Like, I'm doing great.
All right, 3, 2,
little more,
1.
yeah.
I'm doing great.
Ooh,
I like that.
I like it. I like it.
take.
We'll see what the Nielsen ratings say, because this subject we're tackling this episode
Can you do
is
one where you hit doing just a little bit harder?
3, 2.
I'm doing great.
Nailed it.
Yeah, this is amazing. This kid can't.
We'll get the test audience
Yeah,
up.
we'll get the test audience.
Thanks, guys.
TV Catchphrases is our subject of this episode, and we have chosen Chapen. For one, he has his own catchphrase. What's your catchphrase, Chapen?
Well, okay. Before I do it, full disclosure, it's not really my catchphrase.
Okay.
But it's sort of,
I feel like it's
It's in
yours.
the ether.
Yeah.
It's
Did
kinda
he
in the
steal it
ether.
from somebody?
No, it was what's the? How does it go?
Controversy on Mount Rushmore.
Greatest form of flattery is
Imitation.
Imitation.
Sure,
Yeah. So it comes from this Twitter account, Dad Boner, and the guy. It's pretty funny. Check it out. But he ends a lot of things in you guys, and so on Facebook I started doing that just as a joke.
Well, the best thing is that you've made it your own, and it's hard to see.
I got trapped. I kind of got trapped in it.
Yeah, we'll pull the curtains back. We've probably known Chapen for about 10 years, and he's been through the he's been through the kickball ringer with all of us, and it's a strange post to see you not include a you guys, or when you're being a little more casual, just end it with a YG.
YG.
Yeah, well, some posts are a little heavier than others, and you guys really kind of takes it out of it.
Yeah.
So YG, just to let people know it's there.
And then to pull the second curtain back, there's 2 curtains. I forgot to tell you guys. It's not just one curtain.
my
It's
God.
two curtains. Chapen is here because he suggested it. He wrote into it to us to tell us, hey, this is a subject that you guys should cover. And of course, by punishing our friends and guests, we're like, now you're coming on the show.
Yeah.
And
We have a he who smelt it, dealt it policy.
Right.
Well, and since we like to be polite here, Chapen, you get to go first. You get to be the person who lets us know what your first choice is for TV catchphrase.
All right. Today's topic is catchphrases.
That's my job, actually.
TV catchphrases.
Okay.
Well,
all right.
I mean, I was helping you out.
Well, no, this is like at the beginning of a presentation where they say Webster's Dictionary defines.
And I only have 2. Okay, I have 250 more words I need to do.
did Webster have a catchphrase?
Did he have it? Yeah. You spelled it wrong. No, it's just catchphrase.
Look it up.
Look it up. That's a perfect catchphrase. We'll be back next week.
I'm fairly confident that he didn't have a
I remember
catchphrase.
Webster, the TV character.
That's
Did you
what I
ever
meant.
see- Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, gosh. I was...
The dictionary.
You were thinking of the book.
yeah, I was thinking of Noah Webster.
Webster didn't, but Merriam did.
Yeah, Merriam. Yeah. Okay, what's your first salvo here, your first shot, Chapen?
One of the, I think, obvious ones, maybe I wouldn't say the George Washington of catchphrases, but I would say at least maybe Jefferson.
Oh, yeah.
And that catchphrase is, what you talking about, Willis?
What you talking about, Willis? What you talking about, Dad?
Nice.
Very good. Also on our list.
Also on our
Nice.
list, yeah.
What was
I
your
figured as
motivation?
much.
Yeah, outside
as
of its preeminence and its deserving
Ubiquity,
it's gravitas that it has.
Yeah, well, I mean, it kind of speaks for itself, but for me, it was actually the first catchphrase that I remember.
I think
you know?
I think that's a good point. I think that happens a lot where something becomes like an earworm or becomes something that becomes as much a part of your childhood as anything else. As you're sitting there and you're like, I can't. We've talked about this a little bit with like Star Wars, where it's like I can't remember not knowing about Star Wars, and sometimes you're like, I can't remember not knowing what you're talking about, Willis, or what you're talking about,
right?
Mr. T.
Yeah,
Well,
there's never life before what you talking about.
Well, you know, it was actually based off of a Shakespeare quote. What doth you talketh about, Willis?
So
But isn't everything based off of Shakespeare?
often good catchphrases are on paper not very funny. I had a list of British catchphrases. Don't know what they're talking about, don't know the characters, but it's the performer that delivers it and makes it part of pop culture.
And that's actually another reason I picked it was because of the delivery.
Yeah.
I mean, I would say it's almost perfection.
Gary Coleman being able to cock his head to one side, lower his eyes, get really
Stick the lip out.
get really suspicious at whoever has
Usually
declared something.
Usually a white man.
Man.
Even though Willis was black, he usually wasn't talking about Willis.
Yet most of the time it wasn't, actually.
It was his dad, or it was Mr. T,
Kimberly.
or it was
Mr. T is black.
Knight Rider.
Yes.
Knight Rider technically black
What you
too.
talking about?
Yeah.
there?
At least the car.
Nancy
is.
Reagan,
Nancy Reagan.
Nancy
her
Reagan.
heart,
Yeah.
black.
Did you guys pick this as well?
Yes.
Yeah.
For the same reasons?
Part of it, I think that we kind of went back and forth. It was between this and another one, which was help me out, Richard. It was
Did I do that?
thank you, Master of Impressions, Richard Manfredi.
That's pretty good.
That was very good. No, I almost. Am I in the room with Urkel? And I think that, like Jeff said, you can write it, but then you don't know what's going to catch on with the audience. And I'm sure the first time that what you talking about Willis was said and delivered by a comedic young boy, that it was probably just a hit. It hit like that.
Yeah,
And
it probably
they-
wasn't meant to be as funny as it turned out to be.
And they probably rewrote it into episode after episode, knowing like, oh, if we can just get back to that, and people start expecting that, that's what makes something become popular, or like, you know, a repeatable catchphrase and something that you can say around the water cooler that other people are going to be like,
Oh yeah, what are you talking about? Whoa, hey.
Yeah.
I say the water cooler, and I mean, you know, like the playground, because
Right.
we were all
Yeah.
kids at the time.
Yeah.
But like when we were thinking about between this and did I do that, another question asked by a precocious young black child, it was, well, that was like the eventual development of what you talking about. It was a question. It was, but it was almost said to the point where it was so overdeveloped. It was so obvious.
I hate to use this word.
It felt so manufactured.
It wasn't organic.
Correct. Yeah.
I'm
that's-
sorry to use organic, but it wasn't. You know, I never liked. What do you? Did I do that?
Yeah.
You know, it felt cheap.
Do you think there was like an episode where they didn't say that, and the studio audience got like pissed at the end of the episode? Like, wait, you didn't. What,
Like Springsteen-
what happened?
Springsteen didn't play Thunder Road tonight.
I can guarantee
Everyone's
you.
pissed. Yeah.
I can. Well, Gary Coleman actually only missed 5 episodes of Diff'rent Strokes.
Is that right?
So there are at least 5 episodes where Gary Coleman didn't say what you're talking about.
I bet there was like an exponential curve of like the first season, he probably said it episode 4 or 5. You know, then he probably said it more and more. I bet after the first season, it was every episode. We got to work in our what you talking about Willis bit into it.
It's sort of like a parabolic curve because
Yeah.
towards the end of the show, actually, they tried to cut it down.
You
'cause I think it was-
become too self-aware.
Yeah.
They also seem to increase their VSP, very special episodes that
Yes.
were about.
Diff'rent Strokes was one of the,
Yeah.
I think, the show that really originated the very special.
Like when
episode.
Mr. Carlson tried to rape Dudley, I think was the other
in the
kid's
pet
name.
shop.
And
Tackling adult themes probably eliminates the need for that catchphrase. It
yeah,
seems
what
kinda
you're talking
right.
about, Willis, does not work as well in a
It would-
child rape scene.
It would need an ellipses then. No, seriously. What you talking about, Willis? Okay, well, that's a strong opening line for both teams to come out with, the what you talking about, Willis. So since, Chapen, you've chosen your first, and it was also Michael and Richard's first, they'll go with their second choice.
All right, so our second choice, we went with a I think something that we've trod upon a few times, which is The Simpsons.
Oh.
Gets brought up once or twice, and Michael and I actually kind of at first thought, well, we talk a lot about The Simpsons. Maybe we should kind of back off this one. But then we realized, no, we're just being stubborn and stupid.
I turned to Richard and I said, Richard, don't have a cow, man.
Don't have a cow. Don't have a cow.
Oh.
So the line is, don't have a cow, man, by Bart Simpson.
Yeah.
And I think, we talk about this it's like, oh, maybe we talk about whatever a lot, The Simpsons a lot. It's because it's pervasive in our society. And if we're going to treat each Mount Rushmore as a separate Mount Rushmore, as a separate mountain upon itself, it's hard to not talk about catchphrases and not include a show that's been on air for 25, 30 years.
And has invented like a litany of catchphrases,
Yeah.
not just for Bart, though he has several.
Yeah.
But you've got the Homer Simpson, "Oh," which, as we discussed, is never actually written in the script, right?
It's an annoyed grunt.
Annoyed grunt, yes.
What are some of the other Bart ones that we...
Bart's
Eat my
got
shorts.
Eat my shorts.
Right.
I caramba. You can see these.
caramba.
Cowabunga.
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 You can see these on a variety of bootleg shirts.
Yeah.
Let's kill Lisa.
Au contraire, mon frere, I think I remember.
Which culminated in the I Didn't Do It Boy episode.
And I think that it was the Krusty Gets Canceled? No. It was Bart Gets Famous episode where they kind of become very self-referential and Bart Simpson's walking behind the stage of the Krusty show and, he knocks something over and says, I didn't do it. And then everybody laughs. And then they realize, oh, we can use this. I think the writers at The Simpsons are very good at turning the mirror on themselves, and they realize, oh, we have a kid that's been saying, "Don't have a cow, man," over and over, and let's see if we can find up something else. And throughout the episode, Bart Simpson even gets annoyed that he's asked so frequently to say it. Like wherever he goes, he's got to say the line, and then eventually, as celebrity does, it falls apart.
Yes. Yeah. It's the double-edged sword of the popular catchphrase.
Yeah.
So why did we go with Don't Have a Cow Man versus some of the other ones? I think it's just the most ubiquitous, right? The one that survived.
Interesting. Yeah.
It's
I'm
the one.
interested.
It's the one that felt very much like Bart Simpson and nobody else's. Like with Cowabunga, like you could throw a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle on top of that and be like, that's fine. Eat My Shorts probably feels like something that was a Mad Magazine tearaway line as well, but Don't Have a Cow Man is so it's weirdly it's kind of stupid. Like nobody says that. Where did the term even come from? I don't know.
I think it's the fact that also ends with man, which is what he tends to still end a lot of his sentences with.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Specific to his speech. I do love that Eat My Shorts, I believe, was the one that George H.W. Bush got really angry about and decided to talk about how awful The Simpsons was for society because kids were saying, "Eat my shorts."
Yes, America's ruined because of a cartoon boy.
I do examining the catchphrase and the person who's saying them have a precocious young boy, and
we got 2 for 2 so
two
far.
for two. So that's kind of interesting that this person is, especially when Bart refers to an adult as man, he's pretending to be on their level.
Right. Michael, was it the I Didn't Do It Boy episode where they kind of end with all the characters saying their catchphrases?
They kind of run through this litany of Barney burping and Mr. Burns and people just appear out of nowhere, and then of course
Otto and
Lisa comes by and she doesn't have one, and like everyone's disappointed. They're all like, "Oh, that one's not very good." I remember there was an episode where Bart Simpson was like sat at his desk and he said, "I caramba indeed." Very much like, all right, you know what you guys are doing.
All right, so these guys have done 2 choices, and it's time for your second, Chapen.
This one I think is probably like a Teddy Roosevelt of the Rushmore.
I like the way you're approaching this.
Yeah.
Teddy Roosevelt was he's groundbreaking, a very expansionist sort of character in the wild. Tough guy, yeah.
Yeah, and a lot of people question why he's on there. Like, well, they were making Mount Rushmore while he was president. I don't know. I haven't looked it up, but it seems like
he was a recent president, at least.
Yeah, exactly. Like they just put him on there because he was recent.
They needed a guy in glasses.
Yeah,
they're like, hey guys, we figured out how to carve glasses into a mountain. Who are we gonna use?
We have the technology.
Don't use Wilson.
I've got a great mustache hammer.
So my second choice is "Kiss My Grits."
Oh, very good.
From Alice.
Mail.
Would you like to do something for me?
Yeah, what?
Kiss my grits!
The character who spoke this was who?
It was Flo.
Okay.
Name was short for Florence. And so, this is a catchphrase that I think that it is actually bigger than the show. People don't remember Alice.
Yeah.
It's kind of forgettable, but they do remember Kiss My Grits.
They remember grits being kissed.
Grits were kissed, yes.
A lot of our choices so far have had a lot of anti-authority bent.
Yeah.
There's like an anger behind it a little bit.
Don't have a cow, man.
Don't have a
Man,
cow.
telling the man
what
off.
you talking about?
Question the man. Kiss my grits. Telling
Kiss My Grits.
What anatomically were grits on a woman?
Well,
Let's say you're a sassy.
That's
waitress.
actually the beauty of it, because it's
She was never gesturing profusely to a part of her body when she said this.
She wasn't going to her vagina going, kiss my grits.
yeah, she never turned around and bent over. It's being able to say something that sounds naughty without actually saying something naughty.
Yeah.
And as a kid, that was great. That was gold. I loved it. And all the other kids, I remember in the playground, kiss my grits. We didn't know what grits were either, but we knew that it was something.
it was so
Grown up.
You could toss it off so quickly, and you could instantly shut someone down.
Yeah.
What do you get?
What do you-
What's the comeback to kiss my grits? No. Or okay.
Yeah.
Or
Grits-
at what point?
Or
Grits
what
are
are
gross.
your grits?
Point.
Grits
What
are,
your grits
grits
on?
are stupid.
Is that your elbow?
Much. It was also it was kind of like feministic, feminism in a way too, because it was a strong character.
Yeah.
Not taking any sass, standing up for herself.
No guff.
No, nothing. No guff.
Cool.
Lots of grits.
So we are at our halftime, and the catchphrase I usually use is download, rate, and review all of our episodes on iTunes. Studio audience. They love this. People eat this up. And other catchphrase could be join us on Facebook in the Mount Rushmore group. Crickets, nothing. You can lend your voice to that conversation. You can give us suggestions like our guest Chapen did as to future episodes you'd like to hear.
And then we can force you to be on the
just
show.
We can
be
make you be
careful.
on the show. yeah, Chapen gives a word of warning.
They make you sit on folding chairs.
It is a slippery slope. And we'd love to hear from you. And so please do all that stuff and follow us on our Twitter and on our Instagram. We'd love to have you involved in all the different ways that we can reach out to you and you can reach out to us. We are in the back half of our show now. The show topic of discussion, of debate, is TV catchphrases. A strange happenstance is that Richard and Michael are now one person called Michard, and that Chapen Hazlett is taking them on. You guys, Chapen Hazlett is here. So Chapen gave us his second choice, so Michard is going to give us their third choice.
Our third choice is from a couple of shows. Felt kind of cheating, but whatever. Sometimes you got to cheat to win.
Wait a second. What?
I don't know.
Okay. All
I'm
right.
kind of a stickler for rules. You guys.
That's what she said?
You guys.
Oh.
Through yet? Because I'm getting tired of holding this. Yeah, that's what she said.
Okay.
Schwig.
That's right. So we went with the very popular phrase, that's what she said, a phrase that was even just brought out last night at a dinner with some friends. In America, it kind of originated on Wayne's World, where, Mike Myers and Dana Carvey were another couple of precocious kids sitting in a basement making fun of things. And, someone would make a comment and Wayne would just quit and turn to the camera and say, that's what she said. And there's a lot of, it seems that Richard brought this up, did some research. That's right. Richard did an impression of putting long hair over his ears and being amused by himself. I guess Richard did some research and found that it kind of came from an old British phrase called, said the actress to the bishop.
Oh, wow.
And it's not kind of surprising that Mike Myers would appropriate something from his
British past.
his English father's past. You know, he's Canadian, but his dad was English, and you know, turn that into Americanize it and turn it into like an American beat. And so it kind of had its origins there, but it's kind of a phrase that hasn't died since like the late 80s, early 90s. And
well, then it kind of went away maybe for a little bit.
Yeah.
And then The Office came. And it was, I think why it's interesting to me is then it is used by Michael Scott as sort of like this callback to Wayne's World. So it's a show that wound up recreating a catchphrase based on a character very hackily trying to use this catchphrase that's 15, 20 years old.
And in turn, the Ricky Gervais character uses that phrase, said the actress to the bishop, in the British Office. So it's very cyclical, and it's kind of a snake eating its own tail and, you know, very self-referential. But, you know, we've gotten to the point, I know, amongst our friends for almost, it feels like 8 years, 10 years, that you just write TWSS and everyone knows what you're talking about. You just throw "that's what she says" on any sort of hacky joke that it could be vaguely sexual and awful and whatever.
I'll accept it. I'll accept it.
All right, good. We're good, Michael. We're good.
I think this is a fascinating choice because now we've jumped out of just observing these catchphrases as parts of popular culture, but as examples of etymology, and that's exciting because they're part of language, and I'm fascinated. There's one.
That's what she said. Did that one wrong, guys. Sorry.
A friend of mine.
That's what she said.
A friend of mine tells. Partially, these catchphrases are often how we socialize amongst each other. We prove that we're cool. We saw the show. We know the thing that they said on the show, so we're part of the hip culture. A friend of mine went out on a bachelor party, and as you know, those are often multi-generational groups of guys out there trying to bro out. So you might have grandpa broing out next to the cousin of the bachelor who's 30 years his junior. One of the older guys was trying to joke around with that catchphrase, and he kept using an upward inflection. So somebody said, that's a big piece of wood, and he would say, "That's what she said." And nobody recognized that he was trying to do the catchphrase.
She said,
"That's what she said." It sounded like he was asking a question. And people would turn to him and say, "Uncle Mort, are you okay?
having a stroke?
Are you having a stroke?" "That's what she said."
I guess that's better than vocal fry.
Yeah.
That's what she said.
I think one of my favorite moments on The Office was, I think Michael Scott had made some sort of bet to... he was like not allowed to say that phrase. And so the Jim Halpert character was, being so conscious of it, and he just rattled off 3 or 4 things that were just so teed it up, egged him on, and you could see him just like physically uncomfortable in his skin. And he just gets to the point where he's just like. Like he said, like the entire bit is you can see his face getting redder and just the clockwork in his head just kind of working me like. I know what he's saying. I can do this right now.
And that was actually the last words you hear him say when he leaves the show.
Oh, really?
Well, yeah, he's taking his mic off because he's getting ready to go on the plane, and he forgets that he has like the wireless mic with the pack and everything. And he says, "Boy, after how many years, I can't wait to get this thing off my chest." And then he takes it off, so you can't hear him. So it's a beat. He looks at me. He mouths the words. You can hear him say, you can see him mouthing. "That's what she said," but you can't hear it.
Oh, that's hilarious. Okay, so but this is a twofer because it's Wayne's World and The Office.
Yeah, and I just I love the fact that they used that idea of people attempting to use an older catchphrase as sort of a way to signify that Michael Scott's kind of this hacky guy.
I gotta say that is a good sign of a good catchphrase.
Yeah.
Not to help you guys out, but it's true.
Yeah.
I was made aware that there was a phrase, "Hello, nurse," which I think was in Animaniacs.
Yeah.
But it is a vaudeville staple, so much that, like many vaudeville scripts, it was kind of a thing that the doctor always said in a doctor sketch, "Hello, nurse." And it had been used so much that it became not just a phrase, but a whistle. That whistle
came from the phrase "Hello, nurse"?
The phrase "Hello, nurse."
That is incredible.
That's wild.
So maybe that's the future of That's what she said.
That sounds like R2D2.
Jeff, your whistling is A+, by the way. He's on point.
So, Chapen, what do you got, buddy? That's
Okay.
you had some a history lesson in the last one.
I did. That was solid. I'm gonna go with this would be a bit of a crazy horse, and this comes from a cartoon called G.I. Joe. You may or may not know of it. Aired from 1985 to 86, and for those of you who don't know what G.I. Joe is, it's basically a show about war. The Joes that are fighting a Cobra, good versus evil. So anyways, the whole cartoon is basically shooting, fighting, no one dying. And so to give a little bit of a positive to it at the end, they would do these PSAs, which would involve, some situation with like kids that wanted to try to jump over a downed power line.
Sure.
And a Joe would come out of nowhere and stop them and teach them a lesson, to which the kids would say, "Wow, and now I know." And the Joe would respond, "And knowing's half the battle."
Ooh, that's pretty good.
G.I. Joe.
Nice. Yeah.
So, yeah, mine is, and knowing is half the battle.
Now we know.
And knowing is half the battle.
That's good. I think that's right in the wheelhouse also of the more you know.
Yeah.
That'd be right in that world.
I considered that, but the more you know being just a straight PSA, not attached, not
To a
part
TV
of the
to an actual
show.
program, yeah.
Yeah.
What the more you know, was that ABC? Or
That
what?
was
NBC.
NBC, yeah.
Okay.
NBC.
I was Michael, were you looking up the Mr. Body Massage?
I was looking up the Fensler films.
And that's another,
I couldn't
another
remember
point.
I couldn't remember the name of it.
No.
But I think this is a really cool, fun, outside the box pick where people, if you think G.I. Joe, first thing you think is like Yo Joe, as like, or
The song. You think of the song.
yeah. And I think this is a nice, it's within the context of the show, but just enough out of it, but so recognizable.
And I didn't realize that's where this catchphrase was, and it's perfect because for G.I. Joe, it's got the word battle in it. That's pretty cool. Yeah.
But there was a series of kind of alternative
The
takes on the cartoons.
Yes,
like
the
little-
PSA parodies.
called the Fensler films, and if you look them up, they're just silly.
Do it, yeah.
They're just like remixed, and they just re-edited the voices, and they're just
Body Massage.
and they're just done.
But it's very like a C-Lab.
Yeah. Oh, entirely. But they also try to incorporate that. And knowing is half the battle, and some version of it. It's like, and it's just so
It's just
silly.
really outside the box.
I think this is a really fun bit.
Yeah.
Yeah, and also Robot Chicken did some parodies of the more the knowing's half the battle with Cobra trying to do their own version.
That's funny.
And even a Family Guy references and uses knowing's half the battle.
So what's
also.
the other half of the battle?
Exactly, that's
Actual
the question.
Chemical warfare?
Yeah,
If
chemical
knowing's
warfare,
half the battle, the
biological warfare.
An unwavering desire to vanquish your enemy.
Well,
That's the other half of the battle.
Delegitimizing the press. Is
Yeah,
one.
that's also one. Yeah, part of it.
Yeah. Reichel or Michard, what's your last choice?
Our final choice. We kind of approached these topics in a way that was like Chapen mentioned earlier. Like there's such a wealth of catchphrases from comedies and cartoons and dramas and late night TV and SNL and eventually we started spitballing game shows, and we didn't want to limit ourselves to things like that in reality TV, and we settled upon Make It Work.
Make it work. Go, go, go. Do it. Go
Make it work.
Okay.
By Tim Gunn, which was a catchphrase of his that came about naturally. I heard him on a podcast last year. I think he was on Michael Ian Black's podcast, How to Be Amazing, and he was talking about how that was just something that he just said.
Yeah.
That he was looking over. He didn't know what he was doing on the show. He was a teacher, and he was just kind of walking around this room, and just someone was sewing something, and he was just like, well, I don't know about that, but make it work. And then all of a sudden, that was a thing that he found himself saying. One of these things that started out very organic as just something that I'm sure he said to his class at, I think it was Fidham that he taught, or maybe it was Parsons, thank you. And then, the producers got their hands on it. It's like, well, this is obviously the thing that you have
gold.
We got some gold. Let's mine it for all it's worth. And
strip mine it. Let's frack. Let's do whatever we need to do to get all this out of here.
Let's sew it together and make it work. And we thought about a lot of different game shows and like the
Survey
No
says, no
and they all felt very transitional. It's like, this is that your final answer or whatever. And even though this was a game show,
you are the
weakest link.
Your weakest link, yeah.
Like those felt very like a writer came up with that and said, okay, well, you're going to say this.
Yeah.
And this seemed to come out like this is, it felt like a very weird organic moment in reality television that doesn't seem to happen very often.
Yeah.
Reality television, spoiler alert, everybody, it's very overproduced.
What?
Chapin, you'll find that hard to believe, I know.
Yeah.
But
And like these things
blown.
come out sometimes and it just worked for him and works for the show.
And it still doesn't feel forced, even though it's now the thing he has to say like every episode.
Yeah.
It still feels, I think because he came up with it naturally, I think it makes it feel more natural.
I think Chapin said something very important earlier where we were talking about Arnold on Diff'rent Strokes. And it wasn't just that this line was written, it was the delivery of the line.
Yeah.
And you believe it coming from this kid, and you believe it with the performance. And with him, it feels like something that is like, 100% he says this in his day-to-day life. And it's just like, okay, this is very normal.
And I think also the fact that it's transcended the show. Like people who have never seen an episode of Project Runway know what you mean. You're saying, well, make it work. They understand exactly what that phrase means. And it's, it's beyond, it's not just something that you say because it's just somebody else, who knows the show. It's just something that has almost become just part of the vernacular at this point.
All right, Chapin, you got one last shot. Dun, 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 dun. Make it work. What's your last selection?
Okay. My last selection, and I'm surprised that you guys didn't go with this.
We got a you guys.
We got a you guys in here.
That was organic too.
Say the thing.
Yeah, all right.
Say the thing.
Thanks, you guys. So it's from The Simpsons, and I had thought about various Simpson catchphrases, and sort of the reason I didn't use some of the others is because they, I feel like they haven't really stood the test of time as much. And this one, you might have issues with it. It's dough. It wasn't ever written in the script, as we were talking about earlier. But it's been around before The Simpsons. Dan Castellaneta actually got his inspiration from a Laurel and Hardy character. As a matter of fact, before Soundies, Talkies, his name was Jim Finlayson. He was using it as sort of a shorthand for damn, and it was also on a BBC show. It's That Man Again in 1945. So
Wow.
it has roots.
It's got some legs.
It's so descriptive in its simplicity and useful. It's really, I don't want to call the Washington of Rushmore. Maybe the Lincoln.
Okay.
Because it set the slaves free.
So that's a wrap up on your choices, right?
Yeah, it is. I feel bad leaving some of them out.
What were some that you...
The one that I was going back and forth about.
The people will let you know.
Which one?
Yeah, I'm sure there's going to be a lot of controversy.
A lot of how
over
dare
this.
yous.
Yes.
You idiots.
A better format for this probably would be like a March Madness bracket tournament breakdown.
Sure.
We're screwing up with this stupid podcast.
I was really close to
Thanks
going.
for suggesting that, Chapin.
Yeah,
Let us know after
March
50
podcast.
episodes. Yeah.
Who is this guy?
I was going to go with I love it when a plan comes together instead of knowing it's half the battle.
Oh, from the A-Team? Yeah.
But I stand by my choices.
Yeah. You hold your choices to another level of scrutiny. So, and that's something that I think has been a through line with your choices. And once you talk about Willis, obviously your opposition has chosen that as well. We think of that as maybe, this is in the top tier echelon of catchphrases, and so is Doe. So what I appreciate about the decision making is that something has to really stand the test of time. Doe has been said for quarter of a century by a character, and it had predecessors saying it before then, and also kiss my grits. I mean, the fact that you talk about this, not just a catchphrase, but inspiration to truck stop waitresses around the world.
And Jeff has a soft spot for truck stop waitresses, as we know.
Their grits is usually the soft area of the waitress. And the American military in their maneuvers and operations throughout the world, taking time from napalming villages to stop and tend to the care of children who might be accidentally running with scissors,
drinking bleach or something,
or trying to stick a fork in the toaster or something like that. And so I just love the type of care and the expectations that you have for these catchphrases. They can't just be something you laugh at. They have to change the world. I don't know if Michael and Richard consider that or not, but
sounds like we're getting boned here.
Yeah. So
wait, are we gonna get points if we say yes, we did? Yes, we did. 100%. That's
but
all
Michael and Richard also did some research. I mean, sure, it was two of them doing the research, and so they could kind of work together. But
but we had to combine one brain.
Okay, yeah, that's true.
It's tough for us.
Oh, so I would like to go down my list of my winning choices. They are What You Talking About, Willis, because you both chose it, and it is in the top tier. I would like to acknowledge the history lesson that we got with That's What She Said, and the utilitarian aspect of that catchphrase being used in so many different ways and in so many different shows. Even though we talked about a feature film, and this is a TV catchphrase thing. So there's half a point for What You Talk About, Willis, to each of you. There's a point to Michael and Richard for That's What She Said. And then I want to go with And Knowing Is Half the Battle with Chapen Hazlitt. And also just because I want to bring this catchphrase back, and I want to say it as many times as we can before the end of this podcast, kiss my grits.
Oh, man.
There's
That's what she said.
there's a lot of grits out there that go unkissed, and I think that's a crime that
it is
the truck stop waitresses of the world and we can tackle.
You may have just increased your audience.
So yeah, it's true.
Waitresses around the world.
We are the truck stop waitress
podcast
of record.
That's true. Well, I want to thank our guest, Chapin Hazlitt, for just not influencing this podcast in many ways, not just giving us a great suggestion, but being a longtime listener. He printed up a bunch of T-shirts that haven't been selling very well.
We need to talk about that. We're going to get bleeding money on that
the
one.
The fact that it says Mount Rushmore podcast, you guys, makes me kind of question his motives.
Not the first time that's
it's just a bad cross-branding. But also for coming on the show and putting his money where his mouth is and winning the show. So I think that's
Thanks,
bad.
You guys.
Yeah.
So I don't win money?
Kiss my grits.
This is Mount Rushmore. I'm Jeff. Kiss my grits.
I'm Richard.
I'm Michael.
My grits.
I'm Chapin, you guys.